TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark's at it!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is the TruthSeekah podcast. How's everybody doing? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. We're going to get into some spiritual, esoteric, metaphysical conversation today. Hopefully we can get into some ideas and thoughts and things we can bring to the table that can help you out on your spiritual journey, no matter where you are. For someone who's really deep, looking for the next best metaphysical thought and idea and deep science, hopefully we'll be able to bring some of that out, as well as some of the simplicity that the average layperson can apply to their life as well. I love the deep mysteries and the simple simplicities to this life, and definitely to spirituality and esoterics and metaphysics. It's beautiful, every bit of it, because I really believe that even the simple truths are really deep and esoteric and profound once we really get into them. So it's beautiful stuff. We're going to discuss all of that stuff today on this episode. I got to say a quick shout out and thank you to everybody who is supporting my work on Patreon, everybody who enables me to do this podcast, to bring this music and art and things to the table. Could not do it without the Patron supporters. So if you'd like to support, head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. You get access to a bunch of cool stuff, my entire discography of music, which is 10 plus albums. You also get access to extra interviews and behind the scenes stuff, as well as our Thursday night School of the Mystics, which is the hands-on training fellowship group part of the podcast. So if you're looking for fellowship, you're looking for people to join with, like-minded, definitely head over there and check out the School of the Mystics. That's really fun. We get to connect with like-minded people. So quick shout out to some of the latest patrons we have within the last week or so. Give a shout out to Jared Jones, Alba Rodriguez. Shout out to, let's see, Corianne Mitchell, Alexis Sampson. Thank you guys for coming aboard and supporting the work. Very special shout out to the Diamond Body supporters. We have Noah, Adam Brink, and Benny Ween and family. Thank you guys for supporting at that level. You guys mean the world. Also, give just a quick update. We did the Shanti Fest this past weekend, which was a concert that I did there, and we also did the first ever live podcast. That podcast is available to listen to now on YouTube. I'm trying to get the audio rendered to be better quality because the quality of the audio is not that great, so I'm going to try to work on that. But it was a phenomenal experience and weekend altogether. We got to meet a lot of really cool people. Got to meet Joshua Fluman, who's been a longtime supporter of the podcast, and he's actually been on as a guest. He actually drove up about 4 hours to meet us there at the concert, as well as a bunch of other friends. We all hung out and just had a meeting of the tribes there. So it was really fun to hang out soul family. Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know what's going on. Let's see. I'm gonna I can edit the video end of this. Let me just make sure something's up with the connection. Everybody's talking about it. I'm lagging now, so let's see. Do okay, change these settings. Right. It's on now. Okay, we're gonna try that. I just changed the bitrate settings. We'll see how that works out. So we're gonna keep going. So anyway, had a great time at Shanti Fest, and yeah, hopefully you guys will be able to check out that podcast and experience that. It's good stuff. So without further ado, we're gonna just keep going on. I'm gonna bring in today's guest. I'm speaking with Chantelle Rene. Chantelle, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
All these technical difficulties, man, on your end, now on my end. Now that we're running live, now the ball's in my court. I'm having difficulties, but we're gonna make it happen. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I guess a good place to start. Let's hear a little bit about your background and what you bring to the table, and some of the work that you do, and then we'll just take it from there.
Okay. Well, like you, I'm a truth seeker. As far back as I can remember as a child, I was just always in my inner world, communicating with creation, God, whatever you want to call it. And, oh, sorry. I had an alarm set for some reason. Okay, I'm back. So as a child, I was just always pondering about creation and just lost in my own mind with that. So the journey started for me very early. I was an only child and we moved a lot. So the inner world and the inner realms felt more real and solid to me than the outer world. So that was kind of where it all started for me. But over the course of my life, I've been dedicated to raising a family. I've been married 18 years. And just recently, I've, surrendered to what I know I'm here to do on the planet right now, is just to be in service of others' ascension, to help them along. So I just released a book, Aligning with the Divine, and I'm really passionate about merging science and spirituality together, because it brings the left brain and the right brain into harmony so that we can just embrace more, a little easier, I guess you could say. I've always had a great fascination with like cymetics, frequencies and sounds. And so I tried to do my best to keep this book simplified for everybody, but also give them practical tools to challenge their limiting beliefs, how to guide their emotions. So there's a lot of information in this book that came through me. I really can't take credit for, just being the only one. I think that it, was guided and I was just a vehicle for it to come through. So the book was something I didn't really see coming. I just kind of surrendered into the process of what I was being guided to do. And then, so on the personal work side, I do spiritual counseling and hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Past life regression work is extremely powerful for people to step into their inner healer and, step into their power. So I absolutely love that work. And that's kind of briefly what I what I do.
Awesome. Let me ask you this question. You said that you moved around a lot when you were growing up. Did you have a mom and dad there in your life, in your childhood?
Yes.
Both
yeah,
of them
my parents were teenagers when they had me. And my dad just moved I think I was like 32 schools I went to.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was an only child. But I really, now reflecting back, see how much it actually served me, because it kept me really in constant communion with the divine. I mean, I don't know what you use to describe. It's kind of indescribable, all that is. And that just felt so safe and so secure to me that I, was always inside, like in my inner world, like I was saying. It wasn't bad. I think, but
Yeah.
when I was moving a lot, it was hard for sure.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's why I was asking, because like a lot of people who are into spiritual work, or people who are empathic, like they've had like a harsh upbringing, right? Or they didn't fit in, so they drew themselves away, whether it's to books, whether it is to mysticism, movies, that speak about this kind of stuff or whatever. And it just seems like there's a common thread there for people who had like an unstable upbringing. I myself, would go to a school for 2 months and then go to another school for 3 months and then go back to the same school, 2 months later. And I was always moving around myself, and I just kind of see myself one who, was fascinated in something that never changed, which is the spirit realm, which is God or spirit or source or whatever the case is. Everything else was like failing and unstable around you, but that truth, that dimension is always there and constant, right?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And I realized there was a very specific moment when I was probably, I don't know, I grew up in the South, like Georgia, Florida, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this moment where I walked in, I was fishing with my dad, and we went to this bait shop, and there was this big sign, and it said, "If you're black, don't let the sun shine on your back." And I remember it like hurting my heart
Mm-hmm.
because of the hatred just on that sign. So I think I've always known that we were really ignorant of our more similarities than, I mean, how can you judge somebody based on skin color? I've just never been able to wrap my mind around that.
Yeah.
So, and being in the South was hard because there was a lot of that ignorance going on, and, just judgment, and, so that was difficult because I am definitely an empath, and that was hard for me. It's being around racism.
Yeah, I've definitely had to deal with that as well, as one doing, hip hop. I'm from the South as well. So being like a lot of times the only white guy and a bunch of black guys,
Yeah.
Doing rap groups and even schools or whatever the case is, having to deal with that. And that's always been something I've never been able to see. You know what I'm saying? Never been able to see color. I always judge the person's character. And that's something that kind of comes through as well. We've had to deal with that here in the South. It's insane. I think it's getting better though. Some people are still trying to hang on to that. It's kind of weird at this point, to see this generation trying to hang on to that. It's so far out the window. But yeah, just being empathic, man. Just being with the people who are oppressed, being with the people who are hurting, who are struggling, and those are, I think in the end they really do have the coolest stories, and they are the coolest people, man. People that have been through some type of struggle, right? And so that's something that's really cool to think about coming from the South. I wanted to ask you this because I was looking through your book, and it was funny too as I was reading it, and I was sharing out on the Discord who I was interviewing today, and a bunch of the people went over there and checked out your website, read the synopsis of the book, and immediately bought it without even hearing the interview. They just went over there, bought the book. It's like, yeah, I need this in my life. So shout out to those people who did that, and everybody make sure you go over there and support her work as well. But wanted to talk to you about this idea, because this is something that I've dealt with in my life personally, and then again I have friends who are kind of caught up in this cycle as well. But one of the things in your book, you say that you kind of help people deal with breaking the cycle of self-sabotage patterns, and that can be really devastating if you're building something up, if it's a life's dream, a goal, if you're headed down a path, and then you just like do one thing that just tears it all up or just pulls the platform out from up under it, everything that you've been building upon. I've done it on many occasions, and if you're not careful, you can keep doing it, right? I have friends who have done it, and they've made a lot of people mad over the years doing it, and they always come back though. That's the thing. Like they're on a path, and then they self-sabotage, curse everybody out, whatever the case is. They run away from that, and then they come back and try to act like nothing ever happened, but you can't really undo that stuff. Essentially, talk a little bit about the self-sabotaging.
Well, one of the main things that I think that we were definitely not taught to do growing up is to check in with like your thoughts. I mean, our thoughts are incredibly powerful. I think, the New Thought movement kind of addresses that, but harnessing the power of your thoughts and really knowing what you're thinking is one of the most powerful ways to stop that. But it is a process. And so I work with the subconscious mind a lot with people, and we collect, wounds and traumas and negative thoughts when you're a child, someone says something to you, or, you know, you've been bullied, those collect in our energy body. So if you think about like our nervous system, I mean, we're wired to receive free flowing energy. And then these experiences happen and it blocks the flow coming through. So when you work in the subconscious mind, you can basically redirect all of the, you can basically have those leave and then communicate directly to your subconscious mind, and then those patterns will be broke. So that's the quickest, most effective way, I would say, is hypnosis, by going directly into the subconscious mind. But then you also really have to look at what those blocks are. Why are you sabotaging yourself? Where did that come from? And then once you look at it through the lens of awareness and no judgment, it's really important to be not judgmental of yourself. And then once you look at it, then it's really up to you to choose if you're going to fuel that or if you're going to fuel your focus of what you really want to do. But self-sabotage also, we also can fear stepping into our greatness. We can fear, you know, achieving something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just inner reflection. We all have to take time to really think about what we want and do that inner work, because nobody else can do it for us.
So why do you think people do that? I'm saying I'm really you know, hitting on this because I've done it. So where people would you know, be scared of their destiny because, you know, their dreams are too big, or they don't feel like they deserve it, like they want it, but when they really think about it, there's no way. You know, their family, they come from a family who, you know, was in poverty. They didn't go to school. All of these things that are like kind of like weighing against them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you know what I'm saying? So they feel like they're unworthy. So when they get close to it, they start getting successful or whatever, then they just turn around and destroy everything. Is that pretty much what it looks like a lot of times?
Well, yeah, I think so. And, you know, we're a product of our environment, what we grew up with. Like, I mean, you know, if you have parents that were programmed by their parents that, you know, who were in the depression or whatever, it gets passed down to keep ourselves thinking small. I remember specifically a family member of mine saying to me, "Oh, you can't write a book." And I was like, "Watch me." But, you know, so we have to think about like, where we absorb other people's projections, because other people don't understand how they are emitting their inner junk onto other people, and we just take it as truth because we're not in our power yet most of the time. But yeah, I mean, think about even when we don't realize it, like our imperfections offer us reflections. So, you know, it just depends on how serious you're struggling. Like, are you struggling to where you have such low self-esteem that you're going out and seeking love outside of yourself from random casual sexual partners, or just you're maybe giving all of your energy away freely, you know? So it's really a circumstantial thing, I think. But yeah, of course, I really recommend working on yourself. It's the greatest thing you can do for yourself as well as for humanity.
Mm-hmm. Because I feel like if you don't, you know what I'm saying, find that healing, you kind of take that stuff with you into your relationships, into your practice.
Oh yeah.
It's like that extra baggage.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm all about like you have responsibility for the energy that we give as well as receive. Because before we, like, I think actually now that it comes full circle for me, once you do that, once you're ready to be responsible for what you're thinking, what you're putting out into the world, and what you're taking in, and that takes spiritual maturity. But when you look, you know, through your daily experiences and your relationships, and you I like to say, like, you go into a higher perspective and you just look down at everything, and you also have to kind of be in your heart. You really have to be able to be in a space of compassion for yourself and for others. Otherwise, you're not taking the path of least resistance, I guess we could say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because when you're living from your heart first, things tend to move a lot more effortlessly. At least that's what I've found. Because the mind, we've been taught, is the powerful, you know, all Mecca. But it's actually, I feel like once the heart's online, then the mind follows.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? is the best way to do that? I mean, or like where's a good place to start? I know you talk about hypnosis and things like that. Self hypnosis. Is it just kind of admitting it, or like that's kind of a good place to start? That you just need to admit that you need help, or admit that you have these character flaws and defects and things like that. Where's a good place to start?
Well, you just gotta get humble and just realize that you have imperfections, but I think our imperfections are gifts for this experience on the planet as well. So I don't want people to get lost in that, but we just have to be able to sit with ourselves in an unconditional space, look at it, and be willing to move into the feelings that don't necessarily feel good. And that's a belief in itself that, I don't want to feel that because it hurts, but life's meant to be felt. So once if you just move through that, whatever is hurting you, it doesn't have any more power. It gets, integrated. So a good place to start is challenging your belief systems. And in my book, I have a worksheet that will take you on a journey of seeing what beliefs you've actually borrowed from society, what you've heard and you've just adopted. We're like very programmable human beings. I mean, we mimic, whatever we resonate with that moment, we just take it in as our own. So in that section of the book, it helps you to unravel, questions maybe that you won't ask yourself. And a lot of it is that inner work of just thinking about it, because we don't think about it. We're on autopilot. And then we try and then we fail because we don't go deep enough. We start to go deep. But what I found is if you just realize that those things that have happened to us have already happened to us, but we're bringing them into our present moment. If once we look at it, illuminate it, and feel okay with just what happened.
With the self hypnosis and just kind of admitting that you kind of have some kind of stuff going on with you. I think everybody does, right? I don't think that you're a bad person or less of a person because you're dealing with these things that have happened to you. You know what I'm saying? So it's something that everybody has to deal with and come to terms with, right?
Yeah, and the cool thing is once you kind of clear up the disharmony within you, you can navigate your life and go through experiences and not get attached to things. Things can just move through you. You don't have to cling on to stuff. It's when we cling on to things that causes resistance, I guess you could see in the quantum field. But if you could just get to where not that you have to take a bunch of shit from people or anything, but I'm just saying, let's not let things that have happened to us stay in our bodies. And in our emotional field, because that prevents us from experiencing joy and those higher vibrations or higher emotions that we all really want to kind of reside in at most times. But most of us, we can get into depression and doubt and self-esteem issues, and those are dense emotions that keep us in a contracted energetic state. And we didn't have tools. Most of us don't have tools to get ourselves back up, right? And it's not just about thinking happy thoughts. I mean, we got to be real. But it's about being with those emotions, but then moving through them and letting them go. And like I said, that comes with maturity and with awareness, and just owning it. But you got to really be. Well, I shouldn't say you have to be, but it helps to be. It like a bird's eye view of yourself, watching yourself, because our minds want to wander, but we're not our minds. We're here to master our minds. And once we get that kind of, focused in, it's a lot easier just to experience life and be present. Because honestly, I mean, being present with peace in your heart, isn't that the ultimate ideal?
Yeah. The message I got some years ago was heal yourself and then heal the others, or essentially heal the healers. Like I was doing a lot of private consultations and stuff as well. And everybody who was coming to me, for the most part, they wanted to do something similar to what I was doing. Like they all wanted to be healers. They all were empathic, or they had angels that you know what I'm saying, come to them, and all of these crazy things that were happening to them, and they just wanted to make sense of it all, and really to talk to someone who was, on that same level, that same playing field, and pretty much know how they can step forward in walking in their destiny, but they know they're dealing with, those things or whatever. So like everybody I've had has been very similar experience, maybe like attracts like or something. But have you noticed that too, that a lot of people who come to you, they want to be healers? They want to use their gifts and things like that to heal humanity?
Oh, absolutely. Because, anybody that is coming to me, I just have some kind of small something to offer them on their journey, Um, and, I kind of screen clients, or I screen people I want to work with, because I genuinely want to work. I'm not just trying to take people's money. I really want to see their heart come online and open up, and, to feel like they're not the only one, because I sure as hell felt like I was crazy. Like, I didn't come out, like, to write a book like this was really challenging for me, just because my family, I was worried about what they were going to think, because it's so far out there for so many people. I'm talking about the evolution of human consciousness and, energy, and, people are very religious, and I respect all of that, but I had to really, so I'm thankful for you and people like you who are bringing conscious communication out into the forefront, because we all have this in us. It's been so suppressed, and and people get so excited. They're like, oh, this is my truth. This is my tribe. So yeah, we're all here to just basically ignite each other, and no, I love the saying, "Know thyself, heal thyself." And when you know yourself, you heal yourself, but then you also know that everybody else is one and the same with us. Like, do you resonate with oneness, the divine law of oneness? So when you go into the perspective of that we're all one, and that everybody is reflections for our spiritual growth and amplification, you can really rise up through a lot of crap quick. It's just about keys of remembering, because we already know it. We've just forgot.
Yeah. So, as far as people, wanting to heal themselves, wanting to, you kind of mentioned saying yes to the call or answering the call or whatever. Is that, does that look like being authentic and being okay with coming out? Because you can answer the call within, but until you like fully are okay with it and not be scared, you know what I'm saying? And that's one thing that where like it kind of shifted gears for me, was the fact that, okay, I'm going to embody this. This is what I am. People are talking about me, making fun of me, regardless if I'm in my shell or if I'm just open with my ideas and the experiences that I'm having and the way that I express them. But to like walk in that spirit of authenticity to where you don't really care, you're answering the call, because there's a lot of other people who they have that call too. There's a scripture in the Bible says that, I'm saying, many are called, but the chosen are few. Many people are called, but not a lot of people are going to answer the call and really step out and embody it, So it just shifted gears for me when I just, quit caring about the opinions of men and what other people thought. And I literally, it was like night and day, to where stuff just started opening up, and people, getting healed, and chains falling off of people through you being open. Because it's like you have to kind of play the hypocrite if you don't, because you got to kind of act like you don't believe certain things around certain people, your boss, your mother, you know what I'm saying, your family, your friends, your in-laws. Hey, I seen you on the internet and you're talking about aliens approaching you, right? Okay, what do you mean? How many aliens was it? At the family gathering. Or the boss calls you in the office and says, tell me about these aliens. And they got a doctor.
Or mine, worried about what other people thought. But I'm so glad I pushed through my fear, because that one little 3-minute video or whatever impacted so many people. So then I was like, okay, I don't care anymore. It's not about me.